Most coaching businesses struggle to scale not based off their offer, but based off their sole ability to be able to hire and retain top A player talent. And in this video, having been a sales rep myself and been in offers that were doing 2 million a month and so many more, I've seen the inner workings and systems of how the best operate when it comes to building an A player team. And after watching this video, you're gonna know the implementations, how to source them, how to hire them, everything and anything that you can apply straight after watching this video to your coaching business. So hopefully you can build an 8-player team as well. Now, starting off before getting into the tactics, the ways, the implementations, it's important to know what do we actually need to look for? What are we looking for in reps? Right, so I've kind of broken down into setters and closers. Now, as for the setters, a very unconventional one is youth. Having a youthful setter is a very powerful thing. Having been a setter myself who was 17 when I began appointment setting, I felt like I had a competitive advantage compared to everybody else on the team. Because the thing is, when you've been in sales for 3, 4, 5 years, you don't have that energy to push and get better and make progress and kill the phones every single day. So having been a youthful setter, being new to sales, it was a very good experience because I was hungry. I wanted to progress, I wanted to grow. And when you're looking for a setter, you want that type of person. Somebody who's growing, he can't wait, he can't stop. He wants to keep going and going and going. And being youthful is one of those benefits of having that. Because when you're youthful, you're new to the game. It's a powerful energy that you can use, and that is a competitive advantage. Next, you have hunger. Hunger when it comes to actually being better, making progress. And hunger in the desire to constantly get better. The only reason I was 17 and I ended up being one of the top performers on my team was my hunger. I was super, super hungry to be the best, to want to be the best, to get better. And I felt like that's a very good trait to have as a setter. Constant hunger to always want to do more and never be satisfied with being average. And thirdly, being coachable rather than experienced, not judging your setters based off their skill set, their years that they've been in the game, the offers they've worked with. You much rather want somebody who's coachable, who's new to the game, and you can instill the right habits, the right frameworks, the right mindsets, and somebody who will actually, when you pour in the energy and the time, you know they're actually going to apply it. It's not going to go for 1 year and go for the other. And that's a very important one. Now, as for the closers, you want to have a strong setting skill set. I go so big on setting. The amount of things you learn as a setter when you actually apply it to closing is amazing. For the reason being, I mean, when I transitioned from being a setter into a closer, I made 10K a month on my first month. And I feel like if I didn't have a strong setting skill set, I doubt that would have been possible because I knew the framework. I knew exactly how it works. And setting and closing isn't really that different. The only thing is closing has a little bit more nuances to it, more experience with it. Consider pitching, objection handling, all these different metrics, but having a strong setting skill set will help you. And it's super key for the things you want to look when you hire a closer, somebody who has that skill set, and you want to prioritize them above people who just went straight into closing. They never had setting experience, or they never had the experience of cold calling people 200 times a day. They don't have that skin. And I feel like a setter has that skin where it helps them a lot. And similar to setting, and pretty much the exact same one, hunger and coachability. Being able to still be hungry as a closer, to close more deals, to keep getting better, and coachability rather than experience. I was a closer, and every closer has to begin somewhere. And like I said, I only got to the point where I was at as a closer because I was given the opportunity, because of my setting experience, because of my conviction and my confidence in my ability. So when you have a coachable mindset, you're hungry, you have a strong setting skill set, it's very hard to not be a good closer. You just need the right people to help you and guide you. Now, as for the hiring and the screening for your reps, this is the whole breakdown of how you're going to be able to do it. And it starts off with the sourcing aspect. Where do you even find these people? Where do you find the best people? Where do you find the best talent? And the first point being is network. Who do you know? Who do you know that, whether it's a friend of a friend, whether it's somebody you know, always go to your network first. It's one of the best ways to do it. People are warm to you, people know you. And even if you do something like an Instagram story promotion saying, I need a setter, I need a closer, your network is the best place you can go to. That's people who trust you the most. That's the first place I look to when I need setters, is my network. Is seeing who knows somebody who's a killer, who's been vetted. And you also have that screening method where you know if somebody refers you somebody, they're likely vetted, they're likely trusted in knowing their abilities. Secondly, Facebook groups, a very overlooked one and still a very popular one. Facebook groups is a really good one. If you actually want some Facebook groups that you can hire off reps, you can just send me a DM on Instagram. I'm happy to shoot that over. But Facebook groups are super important as well. You do one work, you make a promotion post, and you're reaching not only to one person, but you're reaching to tens, maybe hundreds of people at a time. So Facebook's a really good one to get that traffic, where a lot of setters, where a lot of closers are hanging out. Not the best quality, but nevertheless, there are a lot of diamonds in those pools. That once you actually implement some of these implementations, you'll be able to screen the good ones compared to the bad ones. And thirdly is recruiters, right? Recruiters is one of the best ways to also get reps, is people whose sole job is to connect reps to offers. That's their job. That's what they do. So recruiters is another good way. As for the Facebook groups, a little outreach method you can do here is simple. Just an explanation on what the offer is, currently doing, the metrics that they're doing per month, 7 figures a month, the details behind it, it's a $4,000 ticket price, the commission structures, must have, all these things. And another thing you can do is you can use ChatGPT to change them up time to time, right? Because you don't want to be in groups posting the same thing constantly. You want to kind of switch it up and test it out. And again, a lot of inbound traffic comes through. And then when you have, whether it's network, whether it's Facebook groups, recruiters, you want to have a pre-interview form for people to actually fill in. So when it comes to the form, it's pretty simple. You want to have obviously first name, second name, email, country, whether they're in the US, Canada, or other, whether in the UK, Europe, whatever it is. A mobile number, which you'll be able to use later on here. We'll explain that. Their state, how long they've been in sales for, whether it's a year, 2 years, they can fill in here. And then a good gauge on their sales experience. So please describe your sales experience in more detail in the application. And then obviously a good question is, how did you hear about us? And this is a good question that you can implement in your process, because it kind of also gives you a testing pool. You'll be able to see when you get talent and you're able to see where the best talent coming from, just double down on the actual source. If everybody's saying, oh, I saw you on Facebook, double down on Facebook. If somebody referred you somebody in your network and they said, oh yeah, John sent me here, speak to John more, be best friends with John. So that's a good way you can actually implement that and have a little screening process where, just like you would in a sales process, right? So traffic comes from a front end, they go for a Typeform application to VSL, they continue down the process. Same thing with hiring people. It's the same thing. You have a screening process to vet them. And from that point onwards, you track the data in a sheet, right? So you have their name, email, and then you can also implement Zapier automations where you can automate this. So their form submissions can all get integrated into like a Google Sheet. So you have columns for how many years they've been in sales for, the description, how did they hear about you, and you can also have that organized into a Google Sheet. Now, as for that, when you have those people and those candidates that you want to proceed with, interview date. You set up an interview date where the group interview will be set. You don't want to be doing one-on-one interviews yet, and if anything ever, because it's inefficient, it's a low ROI on time. You want to set up 5, 6, 7, 10 people at a time on a set date and go through the whole process, everybody together. Really good way to do it. So then you send out a trigger link with a Zapier or a Make automation where they'll get an email saying, this is the date, here's the Zoom meeting, this is the time, make sure you're there, etc., etc. And with that, obviously, then you can have email and SMS reminders on the lead up to that. So SMS reminders saying your interview's in 24 hours, our interview starting in 30 minutes, make sure you're there, make sure you're prepped. All these things are super important. As far as that, you then approve the best people, right? So when you're actually on the group coaching calls, you go through your questions, you vet people, you see them, you get to know them, you get a little feel of them, you approve the best people that you feel would be the best fits. And once you have that, you trigger the links for approval. So you want to have another Zapier automation or Make automation where you can trigger certain outcomes, where they get the onboarding course, they get the onboarding docs, things like the SOPs, ways of handling, and you get their payments set up, right? So everything in terms of their banking, so they can actually start getting their checks. And here's a resource, a very good example of a good resource to begin with as an onboarding thing, how to improve the fastest and streamline your journey to being the top of the team leaderboard. So in this doc, like mental models you can adopt, I take 100% responsibility for the results I have any given time. I choose to respond rationally to my current results rather than reacting to them. I focus on becoming aware of the constraints I have within my process that are holding me back. All these different appointments, again, giving them a good expectation, giving them a good standard for when they arrive. So once again, that's all automated. Once they have access to everything, you onboard them, right? So you set them up with a company email, you give them the CRM access, you give them access to the Slack, which is all done here. And with that, ultimately, this is when you do have that call, you book a one-on-one onboarding call. So a one-on-one onboarding call where you set them up, you show them everything, you set the expectations, what's expected from them, what do they need to do, the KPIs they need to hit, the standard that they need to keep up to, and you answer any questions that they may have. Any questions on regarding the offer, when did it begin, all these pointers, you answer their questions and you make sure they know what they need to do. So now that you know how to actually source the reps, you know how to actually pre-qualify and vet them, how to hold the interview, how to then approve the best, and everything that goes in between of what needs to be done in that process. The important thing now is keeping and retaining talent, right? And I'm going to go over 3 main pillars that that keeps and retains the best talent possible. Because that's one thing, when you have a very good rep on your team, you want to keep them for as long as possible. And retention is a very important thing, especially in this space now. So many people, so many reps churn like no tomorrow. So it's super important that you dial in the way you're retaining your people. It starts off with learning and progress. If a rep doesn't feel like they're learning and they don't feel like they're making progress, that they're not getting better, they're gonna leave. Because as humans, it's even a psychology thing. It's like, as humans, we constantly want to do better. We constantly want to be learning. We want to make progress. And the second somebody feels like they don't have that progress, they're not making progress, they're not learning anything new, they're not getting better, that's when you're gonna leave. And ways that you can work on that to make sure that people are learning, they are making progress, is firstly pod trainings. Always having pod trainings, group trainings within the company internally, where they're always learning. Whether you're focusing on a specific task, whether you're reviewing calls, whether you're listening to other people on the team and their struggles and how they're overcoming them, and everything and anything when it comes to trainings, making sure they're constantly learning, they're constantly progressing. They never feel like they're just halted, that they're in the same position forever and this is their role. That's the last thing you want to do. And secondly is reviewing calls. So actually reviewing the calls for them, giving them feedback on their process, giving them what they need to do, and even having them review their own calls, see where they could have done better. Make them reach back out to you, say, okay, this could have been better. I struggled with this. How do you feel like I could have done better there? All these things, they're constantly getting better. They're reviewing their calls. When I was a setter, I reviewed 2 calls every single day. I wanted to make sure I could constantly get better. I could see where my bottlenecks were, and then I would work on them. Super important. And thirdly, a feedback into a growth loop, right? So once they go over things like they review their calls, they have their pod trainings, you give them feedback. You give them feedback on what they could have done better, what they need to work on, and even give it kind of like an objective on a week by week basis. Even implement things like, this week, you should focus on this. Whole week, you should focus on tonality, the way you open up the conversation. Make sure you can master the way you open up the conversation when somebody picks up. All these different little things, but giving them a feedback and a growth loop. A constant loop where there's never complacency. There's never a good point that they stay at forever. They always need to get better, and you always can get better. So it's important that you have that feedback loop 24/7. And that's when it comes to learning and progress. Second thing is culture. Culture is a very important thing as well when it comes to retaining talent. If people don't like who they're working with, if people don't feel good starting off the day and getting into the company, it's going to fail. And it's probably going to fail much quicker. This probably is the most important one. Having a shared mission is one of the ways you can tackle that. Rather than having people in your team independently focusing on their own targets, what they want to do, their goals individually, having a shared mission. Having a mission of, as a company this month, we are going to do 300,000 in cash collected. And individually, we make our contribution to that. So it's super important when you have a culture, it's fixated towards the company, the whole group as a whole. Everybody's the same. There's no hierarchy. Nobody's better than the other person or whatever. People aren't focused solely off their individual aspect and their individual performance. It's a shared mission. Everybody has the same targets and everybody's going for that goal that was set upon them. Whether it's 300,000, 400, 500, whatever the goal is, 1,000,000. That's their goal. That's what they're pushing for. Secondly, recognition of performance. A very important one when handling people. If you don't recognize people when they're performing and you don't give them their praise when they need to, it's a tough one, right? People like to be recognized, even going back to psychology. People like to be recognized for their work. At the end of the day, people just want to be seen. They want to be congratulated. And it's not a hard thing. Even when you run your sales team meetings on a day-to-day, go over the team leaderboards. Go over every single meeting, every single day, day by day. Who's the first on the leaderboard, who's the second, and who's the third. And giving them praise and giving them the recognition. And even for the reps that aren't performing yet, they're still ramping up, or again, some reps have their slumps, they have their ups, they have their downs. Still giving them performance, still giving them a recognition of they still turn up today. You see how many dials they did, how many conversations they had, how many things they tried. And once again, even recognizing them. Super important. And thirdly, competition. Competition is a very, very good one. It's even part of the reason why I myself, currently I'm in Dubai. I came here because of competition. And same thing applies to everything in business and even as a sales rep. Competition makes you better. And some people don't like it, but the reality is competition gets the best out of one another. When your reps internally are competing, they want to get better. And it's not like it's a negative competition. It's just, I want to be the best. And everybody has that mindset and everybody pushes towards that. It's like the saying goes, iron sharpens iron. And when everybody's competitive, it makes the best out of each other. And as a whole group collectively, that's how you have A players on your team. So super important. Also kind of tying down into the progress and learning, but it's having a path that people can ascend to. right? If you're onboarding a setter or you're onboarding a closer, that they're not just going to be a setter or a closer forever, that they have a role that they can push towards in the company, that they have a vision, they have a set target, that they have that opportunity to grow more, to earn more, to have more responsibility. So first point being when it comes to this is a mentorship role. Give them a role where they can teach other people on the team. When I became one of the top performers on my set team, I was given the responsibility to mentor other setters on the team. So I would have my own little pod where I would train other setters, give them my pointers, give them my tips, the tricks that I use. And having that mentorship role helped. It gave me another skill I could learn, tying back into the learning and the progress where I was constantly learning, I was getting better. And it also gives me more responsibility. It's a skill set. You're mentoring people and you feel like you're not just a setter, that you're now actually helping other setters on the team, that you have a more of responsibility on the team. Secondly, there's a growth ladder, that if there's a specific goal that you hit, if there's a specific metric or performance that you achieve, you will get to that position. Whether it's, okay, set 500,000 in cash collected and we'll maybe consider you becoming a closer. All these different things. Having a growth ladder where it's like people aren't subjugated to, they join as a setter, they're going to be a setter forever. That's the worst thing you can do. You want to have growth ladders in place. And funny enough, even when it comes to closers, I would always recommend taking your setters on the team who have done well, who are crushing it, who are doing their thing, and getting them into closing offers, getting them into the closing positions rather than just going out and finding some random closer and onboarding them. One of the offers I was in that were doing 2 million a month, there was no closers coming externally. The only closers on that team were the best setters. So every setter that came in saw the proof of all the closers on that team closing deals were in my position. So I'm going to work hard. I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to get good so I can be in that position. And as a coaching business, you want to give the people the opportunity to continue to grow, to continue to get into leadership positions, to do the things that they want to do. And thirdly, is giving them more responsibility, kind of like the mentorship role, but just giving them more responsibility, asking them for things, seeing if they'll actually implement it, being able to give them responsibility, handle things, take care of things, run over a meeting, take over a meeting, handle the meeting. Perhaps as a setter, if a closer has a no-show, giving the setter the opportunity to reach back out to the no-show and see if they can reset them, and then they can take the close call, giving people the responsibility. And that's a good way that you can lead to path to ascend. Because when you give people responsibility, you can also gauge how did they go about it? Did they actually try it? Were they open to it? Did they want to take the challenge on? And it's a good way to even gauge if somebody's ready for the next step. And that's a good way to go about it. So it's a very in-depth video, and I hope you guys took these principles to heart. When it comes to the people and the things that you want to look for in reps, when it comes to actually hiring them, the process that they need to go through, the steps, and obviously ultimately being able to retain top A player talent, right? Because that's such an important aspect when you do get your top A player talent, that you retain them and that you keep them, right? Because that's the end of the day, that's what you want your coaching business to be. You don't want to be hiring and firing 24/7. You want to have people on your team that are going to be ride or dies all the way through, and they can achieve the goals as a whole company. So super important. Like I said, if you want myself and my team to audit your sales system, break down exactly what you're going through, and even see how you're going about the hiring aspect, there should be a link in the bottom of the video where you can book a call. I'm happy to just do a quick audit, see what we can help with, and you can obviously take as much out of it as you want. And of course, you can apply as much of it as you wish. But nevertheless, hope you enjoyed, keep crushing, and I hope your coaching business ends up being the best.